My name is Amelia Reed, and I'm 35. Competence, in my world, isn't flashy. It's choreography. Every bill, every appliance, every small decision lines up like dominoes, silent, precise, inevitable. At 12:00 a.m., the dishwasher shifts to off-peak. The last cell in my budget glows green, steady as a heartbeat. My condo, deed and utilities in my name, breathes with calm authority. Nobody notices it until the boat lurches. Tonight, it lurched. Marcus's 36th birthday at my parents' house was in full swing. The kitchen smelled of roasted garlic and cheap candles. Friends and cousins clustered around, everyone competing for the loudest laugh. Lucas Harper, my boyfriend of 4 years, stood near the counter, that effortless, easy smile playing across his face, the one that disarms people before they even realize it. I had learned to read it, to measure it, and now it made my stomach tighten. And then I saw her, Rachel, Lucas's ex, brief, intense, a memory from a time before I existed in his life. She entered the room with a casual grace that made her presence unavoidable, like a confession no one asked for. Dinner proceeded. Plates passed. Conversations meandered between banal family gossip and awkward reminiscences. Lucas laughed with Rachel more than he laughed with me. Subtle, almost imperceptible, but enough. Enough to make the hairs on my neck stand up. I could feel the shift, the first ripple in the water before a storm. I didn't panic. I never panic. I had noticed patterns before. Late-night project emails. He claimed were urgent. Smell of cologne that wasn't mine on his jacket. Subtle glances that lingered too long. Data points that added up quietly in my mind. 6 months ago, I had taken measures. A vasectomy. A precaution. A check to ensure the variables of life remained predictable. Lucas thought it was a future plan. He didn't know it had already been completed and cleared. I let him assume control. I also installed a voice-activated audio recorder in his car. Not because I was suspicious, because I had learned over time that truth often hides in ordinary patterns. And now, that pattern was about to speak. As the evening unfolded, I watched the interactions. I measured tones, noted phrasing, caught the unspoken messages hovering between Lucas and Rachel. I stayed calm. I smiled politely when their laughter overlapped mine. The boat lurched again. Rachel leaned in, speaking to Lucas with a familiarity that was deliberate, practiced. My mind cataloged every detail, the tilt of her head, the soft mockery in her tone, the way he responded without thinking. The entire system was showing its faults. I could see it all, as clearly as I could see the candlelight flicker across the kitchen tiles. And then she caught my gaze. It was a small, almost imperceptible smirk, the kind that says, "I'm aware you see me, but it doesn't matter." I took a slow breath. I let the moment stretch. Lucas had no idea I had already accounted for this. I wasn't about to speak. The data was accumulating. The system was about to unravel. Because calm, precise competence doesn't shout. It waits, it watches, and it waits some more. Tonight, the boat lurched, but I was the one steering it. The evening had settled into an uneasy rhythm, but I could feel the tension coiling beneath every laugh and clink of silverware. Lucas and Rachel moved through the room with practiced ease, exchanging glances that spoke volumes. My hands rested lightly on the table, but my mind was in overdrive, reading patterns, noting variables, anticipating outcomes. I had known this night would come. Not exactly how, but the trajectory had been visible for months. Small deviations in behavior, subtle inconsistencies, signals that were all data points leading to this inevitable conversation. I was ready. Lucas approached, still smiling, still charming. "Amelia, can we talk?" he said, that easy cadence that usually made me lean in. Tonight, I didn't. I waited, letting him settle, letting him reveal what he thought would shock me. And then she made her move. Rachel. Leaning against the kitchen counter, she produced a positive pregnancy test. She slid it across the marble as if presenting a trophy. "We're pregnant," she said, her smile deliberately triumphant. I picked up the test, turned it over in my hands, and let the silence hang. Lucas's face shifted from casual charm to a tight mask of uncertainty. Rachel's smirk widened. She expected tears, panic, perhaps begging. I remained still, calm, observing. "You know," I said slowly, "I haven't been involved for the past 3 months. Rachel blinked. Lucas opened his mouth, then closed it. The smirk faltered. She had expected compliance, fear, or outrage. I gave her none of it. "It's not mine," she said, leaning on the counter. Her tone was careful, rehearsed. The confession was meant to shock, to wrest control. I nodded slightly, acknowledging the data point without emotion. And then I delivered mine. From the bottom drawer of my desk, I retrieved the envelope I had prepared months ago. Large, brown, inevitable. I slid it across the table. "What's that?" Rachel's voice tightened. "My data," I said. "All the information you didn't account for." First, the vasectomy report. 6 months ago, verified. 0 sperm count. Predictable. Precise. Her face drained of color. She whispered, "You lied." "I omitted a timeline," I said evenly. "You assumed your scenario was safe. You didn't account for the variables." Next, the small USB drive. Audio from her car, recorded legally. Every call with her confidant, every plan to corner me emotionally, every deliberate manipulation captured. Her exact words, "He's too weak to leave. He'll just accept it." She stammered, You spied on me. That's illegal." "One-party consent," I said. "I am the party. It's admissible." Finally, the divorce papers. Prepared, notarized, filed. Adultery, fraud, and misappropriation documented. Already signed. Already ready. I stood, letting the weight of the envelope convey the gravity of the situation. She gasped, faltered, her smirk cracking. "You miscalculated," I said softly. "That's all. You expected chaos, tears, begging. I offered congratulations instead. You ran your scenario, but you forgot to account for a key variable, me." Rachel's face turned a sickly green. Lucas remained frozen, trapped between shock and disbelief. And in that moment, I realized something vital. Calm, deliberate preparation beats chaos every time. Every small detail matters. Every variable counts. The boat had lurched once tonight, but this time I was holding the rudder. The morning after the confrontation, the quiet in my condo was absolute. Every detail of my environment, familiar, ordered, predictable, offered reassurance. But the storm outside was gathering, and I had to act before chaos could take root. I called Kira, my lawyer. Sharp, efficient, unyielding, a shark who wore pearls and wielded logic like a weapon. Her role was simple: execute the plan, leave nothing to chance. Rachel had already hired a lawyer, Mr. Finch, slick, theatrical, specializing in high-drama divorce theatrics. I anticipated his letters, his motions, his attempts to cast me as unstable, all predictable, all data points. The first salvo arrived. Emergency claims for exclusive use of my condo, spousal support, destruction of surveillance evidence, punitive damages. Finch's arguments were creative, but I had already prepared. Kira's response was surgical. Evidence of ownership, deed, mortgage, and utilities, all in my name, long before the marriage. Vasectomy report. Notarized transcripts from Rachel's plotting. Audio recordings. Every claim Finch made was countered with precise, irrefutable documentation. And still, the escalation came. Friday night, 10 p.m., pounding on my door. Not a polite knock. Bam, bam, bam. The culprits, Rachel, her confidant, Alyssa, and her father, Barnaby. A red-faced man with the temperament of a street fighter who apparently thought intimidation could overturn legal reality. I spoke through the doorbell camera, calm, measured. "This is a private residence. Please leave." "Victor," Barnaby started, purple with rage. "Amelia," I corrected automatically in my mind. "I am executing a civil process. You are trespassing if you attempt entry." Alyssa's shrill voice carried from the lawn. "You can't throw a pregnant woman out." I didn't flinch. I had already accounted for this reaction. "She can live with the father," I said. The pause was exquisite. Confusion, rage, reality. 5 minutes later, the police arrived. 2 officers, calm and measured, took in the scene. They listened, observed, and confirmed my claim. Ownership, premarital assets, civil process being executed. Rachel's performance as the victim faltered under scrutiny. Her father's threats dissolved in the presence of law. My careful documentation had anticipated this, every potential emotional ploy neutralized. Then came Finch's emergency motion in court. claims of instability, destruction of priceless heirlooms, emotional distress. I presented my dossier. Every single heirloom cited by Finch belonged to me, my assets predating the marriage by years. Receipts, appraisals, auction records, and internal surveillance proving Rachel's theft and misappropriation. Pawn shop receipts, photos, notarized statements, everything. The courtroom was silent. Finch's face drained. Rachel's composure crumbled. She had expected chaos, and instead, she faced irrefutable facts. "Miss Rachel," the judge said, voice like steel, "are you admitting to filing false claims and misappropriating property while pregnant with another man's child?" Rachel could only nod. Shock, rage, humiliation, all blending in one raw expression. The motion was denied. My claims were granted. Civil standby ordered. No leverage remained. As we left the courtroom, I felt the weight of the storm lift slightly. Legal victory was not celebration. It was equilibrium restored, every variable accounted for, every risk mitigated. The war was not over, but the system had recalibrated, and for the first time in weeks, I could breathe without scanning for unexpected deviations. 2 days after the courtroom hearing, the civil standby was scheduled. Rachel arrived alone, no father, no Alyssa, no entourage, just her, a U-Haul, and a man she had clearly hired to move her belongings. I stood in the doorway of my condo, observing. Calm, measured, every box she packed, every designer bag, every meticulously labeled pair of shoes, I cataloged silently in my mind. She was visibly pregnant now, the final evidence of her deception. She didn't speak to me until the very end, only muttered once as she taped up a box of toiletries. "You could have just accepted it, Amelia. We could have been happy. It could have been easy." I leaned against the doorframe. "No," I said evenly. "You could have been comfortable. I would have been a prisoner." Her face twisted. "You're a provider. You're stable. You had to ruin it. You couldn't even be a man and raise another person's child for me. The entitlement? It's terminal." "Where's Reed?" I asked quietly, referring to the father of her child. "He moved, transferred to another office, blocked me, said I was too much drama." Her voice cracked, revealing vulnerability beneath the anger. The pattern was predictable. The man she relied on was absent. She had no leverage left. The marshal overseeing the civil standby finally announced, "Your time is up." Rachel walked away with her clothes, her car, and her personal debt. She got no alimony, no stake in my condo, no claim to my collections or pension. Justice, precise and unyielding, had been served. I retrieved my 19th century surgical kit from its display shelf. $200 lost to her theft, $50,000 in legal fees, but the faulty system had unraveled. I sat in my study, quiet, analyzing patterns, reviewing data, reflecting. The house breathed with the calm authority I had built over years. Every small decision, every precaution, every variable accounted for. I thought about Rachel, about Lucas, about the chaos they had expected me to succumb to. I didn't feel triumph exactly. More a quiet acknowledgement. Control, foresight, and meticulous preparation had preserved my life, my assets, and my dignity. The boat had lurched, twice, but this time I had steered it. The pattern was clear, and I had pulled the thread. Freedom, stability, quiet. The storm had passed.